like you're on the wrong side of the river.
All right. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today's movie. If you don't know what that clip is from, you've been living on the rock. But today's tagline.
Born before 1999.
There you go. So today's tagline for the movie we're going to be discussing is "The sand will rise, the heavens will part, the power will be unleashed." What do you think about that, brother?
I mean, it works. I like the saying from Ocano himself. You're on the wrong
that should have
side
been
of
the
the
tagline.
river.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay to your seat because MovieByte starts now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of MovieByte Podcast. I am your host, Ruben, and with me, my brother in arms, the last movie critic. If I'm pronouncing that correct, is it Crytic or Critic? Is that a word I'm playing on the people you're making cry?
You want, but
is it because of all the people you're making cry?
Or that I'm crying about the movie? So just
so
it depends on which side of the
new MovieByte. Let's go
of the river you stand. So. Either you have all the horses, but I'm on the right side of the river. So, it's a march to all the comments.
There you go.
Which I'm grateful for. But yeah.
Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everybody who watched our last video, because we are about 4,500 views already. About 4,000 likes, apparently, on YouTube. And we got some 12 comments of people that are hating on the review on Dune, and that was fun. So thank you all for the support. Thank you for the haters that left their comments, because it just makes us to continue doing this.
I wouldn't say haters. I just say that they disagreed with my opinion, and that's fine, because everybody has their opinion. I'm grateful for that, and I'll debate anybody, but none of the...
Hey, I believe it was one of the comments that says opinions are like assholes, so everybody's got one. So there you go. All right.
I mean, that you can't argue with that.
Hey, thanks for that. Awesome. All right, team. So today we're going to be talking about a movie that is celebrating its 25th anniversary of its release. It got released on May 7th of 1999. It was a great year for movies, and we'll talk about that really quick. But today we're going to discuss The Mummy. It's a classic for a lot of us who grew up watching this movie. I saw it in theaters twice, and it just redefined action adventure with the elements of horror. So really quick, a couple of things to know about The Mummy. It was directed by Stephen Sommers, who directed Van Helsing, G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra, Deep Rising, and The Mummy Returns. It was shot by Adrian Biddle, who shot Aliens, Event Horizon, and V for Vendetta before his death. So V for Vendetta was his last film that he shot. So this photographer has an amazing resume of films that he has shot, and then, like I said, a budget of $80 million, and it made in the box office $417.4 million, considering a box office hit that spanned at least 2 more sequels on that franchise, a couple of spin-offs, a TV show, rides, and so on. Speaking of 1999, that was a great year for movies. Do you remember 1999 in movies, Mr. Last Movie Critic?
So, in 1999, I was still living, in my little tiny apartment in the middle of nowhere in Latvia. And the only way we could watch movies, because in my city, we didn't have movie theater. I don't think we did. So we had to watch pirated copies. I'm not ashamed of it, because that was the only way you could watch a movie, which was like stolen from the camera ripped from the theater somewhere, translated by one guy who talked like this, and then we kind of passed the copy to copy, and then by the time it got to you. So the first time I saw a movie, that was the cam rip, and it was like 6 of us who watched it at my friend's apartment, who had the VCR. None of us, the rest of peasants, didn't have VCR. So, and he had a 1-bedroom apartment, and when his mom would go on a trip to make like purchases for her business, and she would go to like Poland or Lithuania, and during those crazy nights we would watch movies, which brought a lot of memory when I rewatched it. How it used to be. Now it's a big OLED with a nice sound, and
I know
like,
it makes a difference.
It makes huge difference. So I did not have the movie theater experience, but I still love the movie, and everybody, as you mentioned, like it was groundbreaking. But 1999, The Matrix, like that was before that. Star Wars Episode 1.
Star Wars Episode 1. And speaking of 1999 movies, I actually pulled the top 10 1999 movies grossing wise that year. Star Wars Episode 1, like Adrian just shouted out. Wild Wild West was not a top 10 movie. I'm sorry, Adrian. It was considered. No, it was not.
Really?
Wild Wild West is actually considered a box office bomb for Will Smith, unfortunately. Yeah.
I thought it was everywhere.
No, it did not do well. So we had Star Wars Episode 1, The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis and Night Shyamalan's first 1999. So Sixth Sense turns 25 this year. We have Toy Story 2. We have Austin Powers and the Spy Who Shagged Me.
Is that
the second one? Yeah. We have The Matrix. That was number 5. Number 6, we had Disney's Tarzan. Number 7, Adam Sandler's Big Daddy, which remains to be his only top grossing movie of all the stuff that he's done. Number 8, The Mummy. Number 9, Runaway Bride with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts. And number 10, The Blair Witch Project. It was the 10th highest grossing movie in 1999.
That was, like just mentioning these names 25 years later, they still stand.
They make a mark. They left a mark.
Like even the Star Wars Episode 1, like of course originally it was considered like, hey, we wanted something better, something else or whatever. But now you look at it and you're like, wasn't that bad? It was comparing to what they made recently.
Exactly. And I saw Episode 1 during May 4th the other day on Disney Plus, and I was like, this is not a bad movie. And again, I think we're comparing it to the future like the prequels, not the prequels, but the trilogy they did afterwards, the Skywalker, the Rey Skywalker saga, and they don't live up. But back to The Mummy. All right. Before we dive into breaking down what we like about The Mummy, what we don't like, we gotta know how did we end up with the movie that we grew up in loving to a movie that originated from being a classic monster horror film. So, a couple of notes to know. It's a remake of 1932's The Mummy starring Boris Karloff. It was 1930. Well, my notes say 1932, but I could be corrected.
Maybe all right. Maybe I'm.
We'll let. I'm sure we'll be corrected. Somebody will comment and they'll correct us, or they'll tell us that we don't know what we're doing. So, I have my notes. Remake 1932 of The Mummy.
Sorry.
It took years to produce. A lot of names were attached to this project. So, in the 1980s, 2 producers, James Jacks and Sean Daniel, wanted an update of this franchise, but they wanted it in a modern era. So they enlist none other than Mr. George Romero to write a script for this project. So anybody that's a movie fan or a buff knows that George Romero is the creator of what movie? Do you know?
I don't know.
Night of the Living Dead. He created the zombie genre. So, and from Night of the Living Dead, he created Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, all these zombie movies that we grew up knowing. So his treatment was, and the studio wanted a mummy-like Terminator, something that was unstoppable, invincible, and was wreaking havoc. The studio was on board, but budget was a constraint, so that never panned through. At some point, they bring on board Mr. Clive Barker. So for those who don't know who Clive Barker is, he is the creator of Hellraiser. So Hellraiser, Mr. Pinhead, all those movies. Clive Barker was reading a dream he was set to direct. He was making a movie about a mummy that is in modern, if I'm not mistaken, Beverly Hills. But the studio turned it down because it was too provocative and sexual. Okay, so they were like, nope, that's not what we want. After years, they bring on board Joe Dante, who's famously known for Gremlins and Gremlins 2. He was the pioneer of cartoon comedy. So anybody have seen Gremlins or Gremlins 2, it's a genre known as cartoon comedy. It's a slapstick comedy. He was creating a draft where he had the idea of having none other than Daniel Day-Lewis play the Mummy.
That would be interesting.
So we almost had Daniel Day-Lewis play the Mummy. He was almost set. Again, budget was a problem. They offered Wes Craven, who's famously known for the Scream franchise, The Nightmare on Elm Street. He turned it down. It wasn't until 1996 that they hired Kevin Jarre, who directed Tombstone. And at that point, Universal Studios said, well, we're going to give you a bigger budget because we keep getting turned down. So we're just going to up the budget. At that point, Sommers is hired to direct because he had a vision. He said, why are we making a horror film of a character when we can make this into a action adventure film? Look at a combination of using the Mummy elements, the horror elements, Indiana Jones, and Jason and the Argonauts. So the studio liked that, and they greenlit the project. And then Universal was desperate for a hit. After 1998, Babe and the Pig in the City, that was a franchise. That was a bomb, and they were desperate for a hit. So they really wanted this Mummy, the Mummy movie, to bank. So here's a quote from Sommers. Sommers did not want to remake the original film. Instead of making another straightforward horror film, he wanted to turn it into a romantic action-adventure epic with a few horror elements. Conscious of how the shambling, bandaged mummy of the old films had become something of a punchline, he wanted a faster, meaner, and scarier monster. Hence, we get the Mummy that we all grew to love in 1999. Way different from, if you've watched the classic 1932, The Mummy, it's completely different. Boris Karloff has bandages at the beginning of the movie, and that's about it. He's just artist-based for the rest of the movie, and just like the vibe of the movie makes it horror. But Stephen Sommers gave us a faster, meaner, scary Mummy with visual effects, and it gave us a movie that is in the vein of Indiana Jones, and it still had the Jason or the Argonauts who ever grew up watching those Ray Harryhausen films like Sinbad and the Mystical Seas and whatever, and like Jason and the Argonauts and like Clash of the Titans, that type of vibe. This is what we got now, and that's how we got the Mummy that was released in 1999.
I mean, it's groundbreaking for the time. Indiana Jones, the vibe was already going down. You had like these action movies taking over in the 90s. You had some extremely well put independent movies with like, I mean, The Matrix, like, you know, like the Austin Powers, like there was a lot of going on in 90s. So in order for you to break through and get your audience to come watch you against these blockbuster hits, that was a challenge. And I don't know what was the actual statistic, what they made like the first week and the second. I honestly didn't look at it, but I remember like that movie had a buzz for a long time, and everybody was waiting for the sequel. Everybody was ready for it. It won a lot of people's hearts. Like it just was a simple story with like just these likable characters. I mean, they were silly at the times. They were serious at the times. I still cannot believe it's a PG-13 because I was like 18 years old and the shit scared me. Like this was pretty like intense movie, and I cannot believe you could get like 13-year-olds to go watch this and not have nightmares. I don't know. Well, kids were built differently back then. And
it's funny that you mentioned like the audience liking it, because when they did a test audience screening, you know, they always do this for movies because they want to see how people would react. So they show them like a draft of the film, like a focus group, and they'll get reactions based of it. It tested poorly. People were not on board. They didn't like The Mummy because they associated The Mummy with horror, and what they were getting, they were like, I don't know about this. And Universal Studio had to pretty much create a television spot on the Super Bowl for that year to drive the promotion of the film and promote it as an action adventure instead of a horror film, to the point also that it was slated to be released on the same weekend as Phantom Menace on Memorial Day weekend. And they said, you know what? let's bump it up 2 weeks early because we don't want to compete with Star Wars. You know, Star Wars already was getting the hype after so many years of not having a Star Wars film. No, George Lucas coming out with the first episode 1 of a franchise, right? But it was because of that Super Bowl spot that helped the marketing. Whoever was marketing for that movie did an awesome job. Because I mean, if you have early test reactions that they're not liking the Mummy, and we probably would have not gotten the movie we got today, like, or it probably would have bombed because people were not like just the Mummy. You don't associate that with action adventure.
It's a strange mix. Like, even rewatching it, I'm like, I see the elements of action, but they're like kind of all over the place. I see the elements of the comedy, but it's like it's hit or miss. And luckily for them, most of the jokes actually land. And there was, I guess, only a few things that I'm gonna bring out later on for our, you know.
So let's talk about casting. So we have Rick O'Connell, the main Indiana Jones swashbuckling character, right? Who is portrayed by the great Brendan Fraser, who won an Academy Award last year for his performance in The Whale. He had a very uplifting career since then. But did you know that Tom Cruise was the original person that was offered to portray Rick O'Connell?
I mean, I can see that. Like,
yeah,
he could have pulled it off. I guess he got the grudge at the movies did so well, so he recreated his own Mummy.
And ironically, 15 years later, he stars in the reboot, which ended up being a box office bomb and a trash, horrible movie.
Yeah, it didn't land at all.
It did, and so Tom Cruise was offered. Brad Pitt, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck were also considered. Leonardo DiCaprio was almost ready to shoot. What prevented him from being cast to Rick O'Connell is his commitment to the movie The Beach. It had conflicting schedules, and he wasn't going to be able to shoot both of them, so he opted for The Beach instead of The Mummy. And well, I have my opinions about that movie.
Me too, but let's skip on out. But
yeah,
my original take on Brendan Fraser when I first watched the movie, and maybe a couple times afterwards, I hated him. I'll be the one to admit that I was wrong. That's probably his perfect role. It's a role of his lifetime, unless we just talk about this one indie movie which came out last year and he got the Oscar for. But it took him 20 plus years to get to that role. And he's phenomenal in The Whale. Like, that's hands. But the evolution of the artist, of the actor, from the Mummy to his performance in the recent Whale, I think that just miles. And also, of course, the different role, different director, different navigation that they took. But I hated him. In
you know why he got cast?
I have no idea.
George of the Jungle. His success with the movie George of the Jungle was the one thing that the casting director said, well, he's successful. He's coming up from a very successful movie. He's got that persona we're looking for, and that's how he got cast, is because of George of the Jungle. Granted, Brendan Fraser had struggled after The Mummy. He did a couple of flops. Monkey Bone was a flop. Bedazzled was a okay movie. And then he came back with Mummy Returns and so on. So his career has been semi, but he's turned out to be a great dramatic actor lately. So kudos to Mr. Brendan Fraser.
I wish him all the best. I hope he finds his niche, and I hope more directors will cast him in the future, and he gets his redemption arc. But so now, acting wise, like, that's for the role that he's playing, I'll give him a pass, because I don't think he needed to take it seriously, or it's action. It's like the same thing you talk about Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones. Like, is Harrison Ford a phenomenal actor? Of course, but if you take his performance in Indiana Jones, he just stupid American, just doing stupid American things. Like, it's just go get the girl, go get the treasure, and just boom, like you're the winner. Like, it's what audience love to see. Like, your protagonist who is maybe not the smartest, maybe not the brightest, maybe not the most likable, but he wins. Like that's
Yeah.
all it takes, and that was the great example of that, and everybody cheered.
Now we have after Rick O'Connell has been cast, you have Evelyn, the female lead, who is portrayed by the amazing Rachel Weisz, Academy Award winning Rachel Weisz. And fun fact, the studio wanted an American actress. So Rachel Weisz had to audition multiple times to the point that to convince the studio that she was meant for this role. And I'm glad they did, because she is phenomenal in this movie. She breaks the mold of the damsel in distress that you're used to seeing on these swashbuckling adventure films. And we all know the career that she's had since then. You know, Constantine. I mean, she's one of my favorite movies from her. Constantine. She's done a great movies like Constant Gardener, The Lobster. Yeah, sure. What if you want to go with that one?
What? Like, I mean, Enemy at the Gate. Like,
Enemy at the Gate's a fantastic movie as well. Yes,
keep going. Like, she's
a great actress.
And yeah, she has a range, and she proved it. And in this movie, as you mentioned, like it's very likable character, very well delivered. And well, when you rewatch it 25 years later, you can see like there's some awful scenes she had to do, and the whole script was kind of like.
I bet you got those already ready for when we go dive into those, right?
I mean, like, I honestly I took it easy on this one, because it's like, it's like making fun of the mentally challenged person. Like you really don't want to do that. So,
all right. So let's finish casting, and then we'll jump into the plot. So we have Jonathan, Evelyn's brother, who is portrayed by John Hannah. Who, fun fact, he had no comedic experience. He came from theater and drama. And Stephen Sommers has said multiple times in interviews, we do not know why we cast him, since he did not have a comedic background. And I think that's what makes his role perfect. Because he delivers his lines and he lands the jokes. And you can relate to the character, and it's not one of those comedic sidekicks that you see in many movies that you're like annoying, and you're like, why is this guy even in this scene, right? He has a purpose on most of the scenes that he's in.
I think the beauty of this, and we kind of as we dwell on the characters and the people who play them, it just made sense, and it was very chemistry driven. Like everybody got their spotlight in the sun. Everybody delivered their lines with passion. I'm sure that they got paid peanuts on the dollar, and just did this for the passion and for the love of the craft. And it shows. It works out. Like nowadays, when you watch movies, like for example, we discussed last week, like you see they just got paid. They came out there. They were pretentious to some degree, and they just there for the paycheck. Like nowadays, you see a lot of actors who used to be great, but they just go into these horrible projects. They just play their role, and they just get paid, and we as the audience get to suffer the result. This movie, on the other hand, people just loved being there. They delivered one of the best lines, as you mentioned, and everybody enjoyed it. Everybody laughed. And my favorite character, for example, is Benny. Like that's my guy. Like
played by Kevin J. O'Connor, who's a regular in Stephen Sommers films, actually.
Yeah, he always plays like the first string.
Yeah, he played Igor in Van Helsing. He had a role in G.I. Joe. So he's like a regular for him. It's like his good luck charm, if you want to say it like that.
In this movie, he just shines. To me, that's the guy who, and funny enough, when I watched this movie, and I could not stop to remind myself that my favorite cartoon of all times is Aqua Teen's Hunger Force. And I see him as being like protagonist for like being Shake.
Oh, like Shake.
Yeah, like I see Benny in the Mummy, and then I'm thinking like this would be the perfect, like what would Shake do like in this scenario? And I'm like, this Benny is Shake. Like that's to me it was. If you rewatch it, if you love the cartoon and you watch the Namami, I think you'll see what I mean. And to me, that's like the most fun character ever created. But again, that's my personal opinion, and we know opinions are
Yeah. We also have Imhotep, who is played by Arnold Vosloo, who the producers knew from Hard Target, the classic John Woo and Van Damme film, South African actor. He was cast after doing one single audition. And when he was officially cast, he was afraid of how he would look on screen because most of the time Imhotep is shirtless. He actually lost 10 to 15 pounds so he could look good on screen because at that point he still had some weight on him and he just wanted to look good for his audience, apparently.
Of course, we don't want fat mummy.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're trying to portray a faster and meaner mummy. Yeah.
But to the degree where half of his face is missing for like 75% of the movie, and he only shows up like 1 hour late.
Like third act into the movie and the beginning, the prologue. Yeah.
One of the scariest parts is when that bug is crawling through him and then he eats it. Like it just, it's scary, gross, and kind of like menacing at the same time. It just, small scenes in this movie, it what makes it tick for me.
Yeah. Then we also have Oded Fehr, who plays Ardeth Bey, who is kind of like the leader of the Magi, who are the protectors or the guardians of these mummies and tombs. His role is not as big as it does become bigger in the second movie, The Mummy Returns, but he does add an importance element to be like the moral compass on this adventure, and kind of like Captain Hindsight. And he's like, you should have not read the book. I'm like, well, too late. We read it. So what do we do now, right?
You kind of staring towards the plot holes already. Are you trying to derail us already, or
I mean that's about it. I mean, obviously we got other cast members, but these are like the main figures of this movie that compromise the elements. So let's dive into the plot. All right. I think this is your realm. I think you got some notes that you want to partake in and see what do you like about what the mummy is, and what did you find that was like, okay, no, this is messed up, or yeah.
All right. So let's summarize the plot. Right.
Go for it.
Imhotep and his beloved, I'm gonna butcher the name, but I'm gonna try.
Anaxunamun.
Anaxunamun. Yeah. So apparently she's the mistress of the Pharaoh, and they have some kind of affair. Their plot is to kill the Pharaoh, and they succeed in that with some weird goldman group running it out, which apparently that's originally I didn't understand who they are, but those are like priests who follow Imhotep, who is, I still don't like, after 10 times I watched it, is he like a sorcerer? Is he like a warlord, or is
it's like a high priest? If I'm not mistaken, in these times pharaohs had high priests and they practiced like this, let's call it black magic.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what he was. Yeah, he's kind of like this the pharaoh's high priest.
All right, so they betray Pharaoh, they kill him instantly. The guards come up, they kill her, and
it's always a high priest.
They kidnapped him, and then the ritual that she kills herself. They took her. The high priest takes her for the resurrection ritual, which goes horribly wrong because he gets ambushed. His priests get mummified. He gets mummified, but not really mummified. He just gets kind of wrapped into this whatever the material they use.
I know, bro. English is hard.
I know English is very hard. It's my third language, so I'm trying my best to kind of express. I should have put it all to words, but I thought I'm not gonna have to. But you're gonna explain the plot, but okay, never mind. So, and then they put some scarabs into the coffin and curse him. And here's my first question: the curse called is Hamo. Do you remember what's the actual curse? Hamdai curse. It's HOMDAI. Like I actually looked, and so what the
you
curse
did
means,
more than I do because I didn't dive into that part. So go for it.
But I wanted to understand like why this happened 3,000 years later. So apparently that curse put the possibility of him being resurrected and bringing 10 plagues to Egypt, which makes absolutely no sense. If you want to kill the guy, mummify him, but do not have a chance for him to come back first to be like immortal, invincible, and have powers, and plus bring 10 plagues on your own people, but in the future. And of course, they had the group who were led in this movie by Ardef Bey and his followers, who were protecting that Hammurabi city from ever being discovered. And when it got like, and then being discovered, and after being discovered, they could have stopped these archaeologists / treasure hunters from reading the book of the dead, which all they had to do, they had to just read few lines, and that Evie, Rachel Weisz character, Evelyn, she did that, and he was resurrected. As he was resurrected, he was just pretty much bones and needed to get his flesh. But yeah, like that's kind of story. He gets back to the human form, human with extraordinary powers. He can control sand. 10 plagues are going around. I did not count 10.
Plagues,
I know that some locusts were flying. Some frogs, I think, dropped from the sky.
The water turned
to blood.
Yeah,
and that's about it.
No, you have the comments from the sky. I think it's brimstone and fire.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That was two. And then people turned into zombies. I think that was like the part, or like followers, Imhotep followers. But it's not important how many plagues they actually. Again, budget constraints. We understand that. But from the perspective of like, why would this even had to happen? That doesn't make any sense. But whatever. We needed the movie, so that's the plot. And then we have our protagonist, who's not really sure at first. He kind of runs with the army, then he gets kidnapped or gets arrested, or 3 years later, like from the beginning of the movie when he discovers the city, then 3 years pass by, we don't know what happened. We see him in jail, where he how do I put it mildly, forces himself on Rachel Weisz character, Evie, and
he gives a kiss without consent.
Yes, okay, that's and then there's another kiss without consent. Imhotep does that to her, and then she does that to him to stop the. There's a whole.
There's a lot of non-consent kissing going on in this movie.
There was. I think the only consensual kiss is like at the end. And I thought, like, which kind of surprised me, is like there's so many people dying, and there's nobody gives a fuck. Zero fucks given about everybody is dying in the horrible ways. They keep on going. Like the dude's eyes got ripped off. His tongue gets.
Let's move on to the next one.
And they drinking and like, hey, how is the body doing? What do you think? How is he doing? You got no eyes, no tongue. Like, let's keep on drinking. Like, fuck him. Like, I just like that.
You know, it's funny because they like. Somebody gets his tongue and eyes ripped out in the fucking pyramids, and you still keep him in Egypt. You know, I would have been on the first plane back to the United States to like get the fuck out of here.
Had one pilot there, and the pilot was drunk Englishman who was ready to go to final mission. So
it's had a death wish.
Speaking of few things that I found hilarious in this movie. The boat scene, when they're on a boat, they go into the city. The bandits attack them, which again, I don't know if that's part of the Ardef Bey or it's somebody else, but I just gonna assume that since they were
I'm going to assume it is Ardef Bey's like the Magi preventing them to reach Hamunaptra, you know.
So Evie starts the fight, and the fire starts in her room. They escape, and there's a lot of commotion, a lot of fight, a lot of shooting. But then there's a scene where the boat is already on fire. It's in flames. But one of the baddies, he has a torch, and he's like throws it like into the haystack, like kind of like this shit gonna burn for sure. And I was like, God damn, it's already on fire, bro. You don't need to put some more gas. Like, why you do this?
He wanted to do his part.
Like, yeah, he's like, I need to do this. Just like check mark.
They told him, if the hold the torch. This is your one job, you know.
Yeah,
hold the torch.
Like a protection plan with this purchase. Yeah, so like you had to know that the fucking bosses are watching.
For the geek squad.
Yeah, next thing what like made me laugh was when they were opening the door already in the tomb. So I'm gonna divide these two groups. There's Americans who try to get the treasure, and then there's
The treasure, yeah, and then
O'Donnell, who is with Evie and so on, also try
Yeah.
to get the treasure. Not sure what they're doing. Reading the okay, never
I think
mind.
I think they wanted the book. That's what they wanted, like the Book of the Dead, and she ends up reading from it.
Yeah. So it's again not
Anyways,
gonna
yeah.
go into big details. I'm just kind of like
Yeah.
just painting.
Yeah,
over.
no, I got you. I mean, most people already know what's going on in the movie, given that what the classic that is. But yeah, let's keep dive deep.
The on the American side, they have the Egyptian like stereotypical dude who's like, hey, no, don't open the door, there may be some kind of curse behind it. So they send like 3 peasants to open it, and they open and they all turn like into like mummies or whatever, like they, and then Akano explains later like it was like salt acid or some sulfite
sulfuric acid, I think.
Yeah, some kind of acid which just burned them.
Yeah, it's like a booby trap. Yeah.
The next scene where they again in the tomb, now they have this box which says that the curse will be upon anybody who opens it, and fucking 3 Americans just open it. like didn't you just learn your lesson? You still have like 10 more guys who you hired. Just let them open the box too. Anyway, that was hilarious. Then to very sad character, which I think that was like that was just heart-wrenching, like especially watching it this time, like Mr. Burns, the guy who had bad vision, which is explained to us when they're playing cards. And he was like technically the first victim from the mummy. So his glasses get dropped. Benny runs over them. He's blind.
Smashes them.
Yeah. So he's blind, walking in the tomb. So my first reaction was that the mummy, the Imhotep, was blind too, because he came in and ripped out the eyes, which we don't see, and his tongue out of this character, Mr. Burns. And Mr. Burns is still alive. He's still talking, and the mummy's talking. So I don't know how that works. Like half of the tongue, 3/4. Like I don't know what the mathematical probabilities here are.
Maybe the mummy didn't take the full tongue.
The full tongue, maybe. Like yeah, he didn't need full. He spoke ancient Egyptian, so the whole movie. So whatever, it's a couple syllables, I guess.
He probably just needed half a tongue for that kiss anyway. So,
but when he looks at Evie, because he runs into her, the mummy, and he like, oh, I know, calls that Anu Sanamuk, Anu
Anaxunamun.
Anaxunamun. So he calls her, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense because the motherfucker is blind. He got Burns' eyes, like he can't see. So I'm like, oh, this is gonna lead somewhere, but but no, they didn't use that. Somehow then he saw everything perfectly, but maybe like eating other people's or sucking them made the vision better 2020, or his powers came. I don't know, it just kind of very silly thing that he had to kill like 4 Americans to
well, it's the 4 Americans that steal like the little organ things.
No, I understand. Yeah, but I thought the organs were for the girl. Those are his organs. I guess it's his organs, because for some reason I thought it's a girl's organs, and then he needs those to resurrect her. It never explained. But anyway,
damn it, man, now I'm confused.
I
have to rewatch that fucking movie again.
Again, in 25 years we can revisit this when it's 50th anniversary.
I would walk out with a fucking degree on Egyptology just because of this.
All right, so this like we kind of go on. It's a roller coaster, right? Now
let's go
on top. This is the scene which I missed completely on the first, second, third. I don't even remember the scene being in the movie, but it's there because I watched it. I paused. I went back and I rewatched it to make sure that I see it completely right and that what my eyes see. And if I'm lying right now, anybody in the comments, you can please jump in, or Ruben, if you just remember the scene with me.
I got you.
So Benny is being cornered by the mummy or Imhotep, and he's about to like be killed or whatever. He's not really needed since he doesn't have any organs, I guess. And Benny is being Benny. He starts showing the different religious symbols to to the Imhotep, and he tries different languages to reason with him. Like he shows the Catholic cross, he shows like the Buddha, and then he pulls up the David Star, which is
the Star of David. He pulls the Star of David.
The Star. I'm sorry, Star of David, and he starts talking Hebrew, but like
Hebrew,
Jiddisch, because Jiddisch was more popular, and probably ancient Egyptian would know Jiddish more. But anyway, that's beyond the point. And the mummy stops, and the line, and I quote, and he says, "The language of the slaves." I mean, I know it was made in 1999, but like in now content, in what's happening, and like David Starr and that sentence, I don't think this movie would have, well, at least this scene would have made it, unless maybe
why? I mean, it is the language of the slaves, you know. I mean, Egypt had Israelites like as slaves.
I understand. I understand that in the content where we're insensitive, but
like, do you think that in today's population it would have just created a woke culture,
right? Like in a turmoil that's happening with like where you can't.
I get it.
Do, like people, like movies being stopped, project, people getting canceled for saying something, but like I understand, but we're not going through historical facts. It's like I'm just saying, like as the viewer right now, watching that scene, watching that line. I mean, obviously, I was just amazed.
I can see the comments piling up now, bro.
No, but I'm like, this isn't like I'm not making this up. Like this is real. This is what happened in the movie.
No, I get you. Yeah.
And in 1999 Hollywood, it was allowed. Nobody blinked the fucking eye. Nobody, like, if I wouldn't brought it up, none of you would have remembered that line. Nobody would have cared, and nobody would have paid attention. And
I honestly didn't care until you bring it up now. And the scene is there. I do recall that scene. That scene is in there.
Right. And it just, to me, I feel like, and it's fine. Again, it works. It's fine. He's like, yes, now you might hear some, and then he gives him some gold coins afterwards. Like, it's fucking there. Like, look at it. Like, he gives him some gold.
I know.
coins.
Yeah, I'm laughing because I react the same way. And I'm not gonna say what I thought. But yeah,
I was shocked. Like, literally, I forgot about this scene being there. And when he started flashing the symbols, and I was like, oh shit. And he keeps like he yeah, like Benny's just the goat. Like he needed to survive, so he pulled up every magic trick out of his hat. And the rabbit. Which
I like Benny. I like Benny when O'Connell's like confronting him, and I think it's in the hotel room, and he goes like, "I think about my children." He's like, "You don't have children. Someday I will."
Or another line when Benny delivers, like it's a fucking hilarious line when Evie kisses Imhotep and the whole fucking sand castle flops.
Yeah.
He's like, "Man, I like that magic show, you bastard." And he looks at her like I'm still on my master's side. Like, that. I can't hate this movie. Like I literally, like I tried to find anything that was completely wrong with it and just be like, let me rip into this one. I can't. Like, there's some things that I'm pointing out which just don't make any sense, but they do not distract me from enjoying it, if it makes sense. Like,
yeah, no, I totally agree. It's a movie that it just entertains you from the beginning to end. And like, if you pay attention to maybe some details of the story, then you're gonna be like, I don't think that's accurate. But it's overpowered by the entertainment and the characters on it. You know?
Yeah, their charisma, and just it's so fast paced. Even though maybe in 40 minutes in the beginning, not much happening, and in the last 30, you get confused with what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
But it's entertaining. One thing I want to point out, which is one of the most creative decisions that they did, is that we don't see how Burns' character gets, tongue ripped out, the eye.
Yeah.
The second guy, he kind of dies in a crowd, so you just see his mummified body afterwards. The third character, he's in a hotel room, and you
Mhm.
see like the window opens up and this kind of shadow
The
comes up,
shadow, yeah.
and then you see his body kind of being lifted and dried, and that visual, like it's a 3-second visual. I think it's like a fantastic decision to save budget. It just somebody can just draw that like on a
Yeah.
sketch. I'm sure it didn't cost them a lot, and it just not the way it was executed, the way it was created. Like,
Yeah.
I give props for whoever did it, because you don't see how horrifying it is until you see that scene that like the whole body just being like
Yeah, and
devoured.
it's one of those scenes. It's like a little like Easter egg to the old like Jason and the Argonauts movie, where they use like it's in a way it's kind of like stop animation.
Yep.
So it's kind of like the little Easter egg. And I agree with you. I like the fact that they never show how he gets his body back. It just creates that suspense. Like it's just menacing. Like it's just letting you know like this is Imhotep. This is the mummy that you just awaken, and he's unstoppable, and he's gonna continue killing until he gets what he wants. But I don't want the audience to see what he's doing, because we want them to continue fearing him throughout the movie. And what I read is like the story is a swashbuckler who is trying to save the damsel in distress, which he's not. But the monster or the villain is giving him a hard time to prevent him from doing that. And that's what this movie is, you know.
I mean,
like the mummy's just giving Rick O'Connell a hard time. It's like, you want to stop me, but I'm just going to make it difficult on you.
yeah, Imhotep just wants to bring his girl back. Like
Yeah.
they were together. They loved each other madly. That killed the Pharaoh, and she killed herself, believing that the high priest gonna resurrect her.
Resurrector, yeah.
And here we are 3,000 years later, and these Americans are trying to stop them with some of the stereotypical Egyptian running around helping them. Like it's fucked up, you know. They should have let them be. You know, 10 plagues, who cares? Like it's not our war, you know. Another thing that kind of bothered me, and that just like, again, if anybody in comments can explain to me, like those beetles or those scarabs that would
The scarabs
get into the skin or run it. Like there's no point of entry when they get in under your skin. They like there should be a cut or something. I know it's a PG-13, but still, like, give me, like, it's logistically just doesn't work. And if they get it in, maybe like they have some kind of like maybe they don't have mass or whatever. Like then
yeah, I mean, we can understand why the mummy has them, because he has cuts, you know. But I think you're talking about the scene where the other guy just gets like fully eaten up.
There's two scenes. One is the kind of the guy who freed O'Connor from that
the warden. Yeah.
The warden, he's there, and then he gets like possessed with the scarab and then runs into the wall, and they like watch him die, and they're like, all right, well, fuck him, he's dead, let's go, let's keep on moving.
I mean,
and then the other character, I forgot who at the end also.
The male body has a multiple point of entry, so it might have just went through one of those.
Oh God! I mean, I'm talking about hands, you dumbass. Anyway, all right. Nobody explained. Okay, Ruben already took care of that. No need. Sure. So, like, that's my overall take. Like, is there plot holes? Like, we would be here till morning if we describe every single plot hole. But it's not the movie where the plot actually matters. It's one of those action adventure horror stories where you just get in there and just enjoy the ride.
It's not the movie we'll be discussing next week where the plot actually matters and it has plot holes.
Here's the thing: like, if the director and a screenwriter and an actors are on the same
holes everywhere.
If everybody on the same page, there could be a great movies. Like, and look, after this we have National Treasure, or what's that movie with our beloved, the guy from Face Off. Jesus Christ,
Nicolas Cage. You talking about National Treasure?
National Treasure, yes. Like that was few years later, they already like let's milk that cow. Disney
2004,
like, we need the same thing. And then I believe Nathan Drake from Uncharted is like kind of protagonist, kind of like the O'Connor was, hey,
Yeah.
Let's take this treasure hunter and put him in different situations. But if you look at Nathan Drake, he's more sophisticated, he's smarter. Of course, you get a little bit extra added to get character a little bit more developed and but it's still same guy.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, Nathan Drake is a treasure hunter. He's got the knowledge, and versus Rick O'Connell, we're talking about a brute. Like he's just an army man.
If we have to like Harrison Ford from Indiana Jones, then you got Rick O'Connell, then you got whatever Nicolas Cage played, then you got Nathan Drake in Uncharted, and then we haven't had any treasure hunters lately. I don't know. Well, they had new Indiana Jones, but I don't know. I didn't see that.
The Dial of Destiny.
Yeah, but besides that,
no, like, I think Indiana Jones is probably the last like treasure hunting film that I could recall. Before that was Uncharted.
But it just tells you how hard it is to create this kind of movie. Like
I mean,
25 years, I can only name like 4 sort of variations of the same protagonist in a different settings.
And it's difficult because you got to make sure you tell a story where, again, plot holes are not, if they're there, they're the minimum where the audience just ignores them because the movie's entertaining. That's what we get with the Mummy, you know?
Yeah. If we can close our eyes or we can close one eye and be like, okay, I'll let you slide on this one. If there's too many of them, then obviously you're not going to be successful. But if there are minor ones and you have to really logically think about them, then you fooled us. You pulled up the magic trick, and that's what movies should be. They should be a magic trick where it invites us to forget about daily routine and horrible realities, where I can forget about all that and not to actually search for.
Tomb Raider. Yes. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Yeah, that's a good. When does Tomb Raider actually came out? But I think the first game was about 98, 97. No.
It could 90 be around there. Whenever the first PlayStation came out, so probably around 96. Yeah. And then we had Tomb Raider by Angelina Jolie. She did 2 versions of that, and then Alicia Vikander did like one. The reboot. Yeah.
Yes, actually. So another one, great example. But yeah, that's kind of my take on the Mummy. Like I still think it's entertaining. I still think people nowadays can enjoy it, unless they, if they cut that one scene I talked about, maybe it'd be more enjoyable for younger generation.
I mean, you can't cut it. I mean, it's one of those things, you can, if anything, you can put a warning about it. That's how they do now with like anything that's made in the 1930s or 40s
may
or 50s.
Trigger woke culture.
Like, I mean, because you can't cut it. It's part of what it is. It's the culture. It's history. It's not like they're doing that on purpose. It's history.
You never know. How you know they're not doing it on purpose?
Come on, bro. It's 1999.
Maybe the guy was pro-Palestine.
97. Tomb Raider, 97. That's right.
Oh, there we go. So, for me and my friend, this is kind of like I'm running out of bullets. Rick O'Donnell never reloaded, never fucking needed another. Well,
shit, I mean, got the John Wick in the 1930s.
Yeah,
kept
like
pulling pistols.
The only thing that the Art of Bait, like he was putting the shotgun ammo once. I played the movie. For the rest of the,
it's funny. Now you're speaking about that, so I watched the movie with Brendan Fraser's commentary. It's actually fun for those who have like the movie on digital, Blu-ray, or like check the special features. They're really fun. So. Brendan Fraser was talking about that opening scene with the Battle of Hamunaptra, where we get introduced to the Rick O'Connell character. And he's talking about how they had an master of arms on set. Every movie does have to have that. But they had to, they were using authentic, weapons from, the 1930s. So you had to, load one bullet at a time. And then it wasn't scripted, sorry. It wasn't scripted. He was the one that came with the idea of putting the bullet in his mouth while he's shooting and then take it off to reload it. Because he's like, well, I figure this will be a lot easier. Maybe they did this in those times. Maybe they didn't, but I'm going to fucking do it. So that scene that you see him shooting, he's got a caliber bullet in his mouth. That's just Brendan Fraser improvising with the moment. So he shared that detail. And speaking of commentaries, there is a famous scene in The Mummy that many may know, others may not know, and you're going to know now, Brendan Fraser almost lost his life filming The Mummy. The hanging scene, there was a miscommunication between the stunt double and the close-up shots that Brendan Fraser had to do. So they tied the noose a little too tight. So when he's hanging in the scene, there is a close-up shot in the movie that you can actually see Brendan Fraser, like, you can see he's suffocating. That's a real reaction. He was actually dying during that scene. It was Rachel Weisz that had to like notify the director to cut filming because she noticed that Brendan Fraser wasn't acting. He was literally dying, so he almost lost his life filming The Mummy, and we would have had another like The Crow with Brandon Lee, right? Like Brendan Fraser's like The Mummy, that become a cult classic immediately. But
don't have named Brendan in Hollywood.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So he almost died filming that scene. But other than that, I mean, it's fun. It was fun to hear Brendan Fraser comment around certain scenes in the movies. There's a scene, the cat scene. Every time they would show the cat to Imhotep so he could get scared, because that's the one thing this mummy fears is a white cat, or any cat, because they're the guardians of the underworld. Brendan Fraser says that in between takes, they would just laugh because he would have to hold the cat, and Arnold Vosloo would have to react and do like the spinning as himself, because they will in post production later on add the sand and everything. So every time they filmed that, they would start laughing because it was just hilarious to them that he's showing him the cat and he's like, and he's like spinning around to walk away from the scene. So it was fun experience. Like I gotta do that more. I gotta start watching movies with commentaries just to like learn more, because I learned a little bit of like the experience that Brendan Fraser had filming this movie. He does share that it's one of the most memorable experiences he's had in his career filming The Mummy. He had lots of fun. There were some hot days. I mean, most of those scenes in the desert were filmed in Morocco and Marrakesh, because they couldn't film in Egypt because there were like political tension during that time. So they were not allowed to film in actual Egypt. So they had to film in Morocco and Marrakesh.
Oh, nothing changed since then.
Yeah, and then sound stages, obviously. So, but it was overall like, this is a fun movie. I love watching this movie, and I never get tired of it. It's one of those, I watch it. I normally watch it every like Halloween season because The Mummy, but it's one of those movies that if I'm like browsing around, I see it like streaming somewhere, I'll put it on. I have it on digital, but if I see it streaming somewhere, I'm like, let me put The Mummy on.
There are movies when you're browsing something and it's just there, and you
just got to, and then boom, and The Mummy's one of them.
Yeah.
So
if you guys have those kind of movies, put it in the comment. Like we would like to know.
Yeah, like
what
whoever's
movie
watching,
you cannot pass.
Yeah, one movie. If you're browsing your famous streaming service and you see that movie, and you just go, you know what? I just need to watch this. Like, sure, shoot it up there. I want to see what you guys have. Whoever's watching, I would love to see that. The Mummy's one of them. I was browsing the other day, and I'll really off topic, but The Rundown. I was on Hulu, and I'm like, you know what? I want to watch The Rundown with The Rock and Sean William Scott. Stupid ass movie, but I just wanted to watch it. And I think last night I watched The Chronicles of Riddick with Vin Diesel.
That's classic.
I mean, it's such an underrated sci-fi movie, and I wish it would expand it more. But no, that could be a topic for another for another day. But overall, The Mummy, great movie. I mean, it has aged very well. Even the visual effects, being from a 1999 movie, the A-Team. Okay, I'll allow it.
I'm gonna debate you on that CGI. I think like I didn't bring it up, but like
there are some scenes that you're like, no, but
aged poorly. Like especially like her being a ghost, like coming out of river. Like
but I want to
ghost.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Or
but I think
Mummy, like the first when he appears, it's just like it's like.
Well, I think the Mummy's transformation. It's one of like. It looks pretty good.
They spend money where they could spend money, but like, for the most part, I'm just saying like there could have been a well, again, it's 1999, so
yeah.
But yet at the same time, you had Matrix coming out a few months before.
Yeah, and
you had Jurassic Park before that. So
Van Helsing, Kill Bill, Sabotage, and Steph. Okay, Van Helsing is great. Another Stephen Sommers film, Hugh Jackman. Chef is amazing too. Like Chef is a feel good movie. That's a good one. Kill Bill. Okay.
I have to be in the mood to watch.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, a Sabotage. That's probably the Arnold Schwarzenegger one that he leads a team of mercenary. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I saw that movie once, and we'll leave it at that. But I'll give you Van Helsing and Chef. Definitely Chef and Van Helsing are one of those movies that you just would just hit play. All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we discussed what we could from The Mummy. It's a great film. It has elements that just makes it entertaining. And I mean, we came from a movie that we almost had a horror movie by George Romero or a sexual provocative horror movie from Clive Barker. So whoever has ever seen a Clive Barker movie, you should know he basically makes gore porn. If you ever seen Hellraiser, that's what that movie is. So we almost had a Wes Craven mummy, and we almost had Daniel Day-Lewis portrayed a mummy. You imagine Daniel Day-Lewis, he's a method actor, being offset acting like the mummy. That'll be epic. But we came down, the studio said, you know what, this is what we need. And 25 years later, we got this classic. And it's still a classic, will remain a classic. It can turn another 25 years in the next 25 and then 50 years from here, and like it's still a classic. They'll probably in that time try to reboot that version because they try to do that with The Mummy in 2017 with a whole dark universe, and that did not end up very well. Yep, that one, guilty pleasure. I figure Sabotage, guilty pleasure. That is definitely a guilty pleasure. All right. Again, so what we're gonna be talking about next week? Next Tuesday at 9 p.m. going live.
Somebody suggested we'll talk about a movie called Prometheus.
Prometheus, yes. One of our viewers last week suggested Prometheus, so we will be discussing Prometheus. I think it's a good timing. Alien Romulus comes out in August. Let's discuss the movie that I think Ridley Scott made, and he did not want it to make it an alien movie, and at the end, they decided to make it an alien movie. So we're going to have fun with that one. There we go. Thank you so much for your suggestion, Chris. We're going to be discussing Prometheus. For those who are viewing and want to watch Prometheus, it's actually available on Apple TV Plus for limited time only, and I believe you can also watch it on Hulu. So anybody
TV,
that wants...
you get like 3 month subscription for free if you just...
Yeah, so, I mean, Apple TV's been launching movies. Yeah. So we'll be doing Prometheus, the movie that is an alien movie, but it's not really an alien movie. We're gonna have lots of fun with that one. We got a comment coming up. The Batman. Ooh, we haven't done a Batman film since we started this. Matt Reeves' Batman, Christopher Nolan's Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, Joel Schumacher's Batman.
You gotta narrow it down the Batman.
Like which one? Because we're making a list. We want viewers to tell us what we should talk about. We're not gonna choose anymore. We want you guys that are joining us every Tuesday night to tell us what you want to talk about. Shoot me up, Andrea. Which Batman are you referring to? I mean, Nolan's. Okay, the Nolan's. Okay, that's Stevie said Nolan's. Okay, out of those three, I mean, we can do all three. That would be a long episode. But is there any of that Dark Knight trilogy you want to emphasize? And we would love to break it down. I mean, like a movie critic here is what's up, Vanilla Face?
Yep, that's Borat for you. We can do Borat. Nah, I don't know.
There's nothing to break down the Borat. There's nothing to break down.
You have to watch Borat. Like you just watch it. And maybe we can watch it on screen one time and then.
All right, so we got a couple suggestions after Prometheus. I know we said Kill Bill also, but Matt Reeves, the Batman. I'm not opposed to that idea.
I say we put a pin into this one. It's a good suggestion.
Yeah, we got some good stuff. Well, definitely next week we'll do Prometheus. We got a lot of homework to do. Thank you, everybody who has joined us again this Tuesday at 9 p.m. to share with us our views. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thank you for all your support. Reminder, if you haven't followed us on social media, follow us at MovieByte Podcast on Facebook, at movie.byte on Instagram. We're also on YouTube on MovieByte Podcast YouTube channel. share, like, hit that little bell so you get notified whenever we drop videos and shorts too. We can do shorts now apparently. Also a great remember to review Troll 2. No, that is literally the worst movie in movie history that it's actually labeled like that. No, we're not doing Troll 2.
But there was a comment about the joke. We did the Joker, so we need to do Batman.
You guys, the Joker, it's time for the Batman. Yeah, I saw that. They
know what they're saying. Yeah, like it's.
We're gonna sit down after Prometheus and discuss, but we might have to do the Batman. It's perfect timing because the Penguin's coming out later this year on Max,
and a Joker we might have coming out,
and Joker 2 coming out. So okay, I think you're onto something, Adrian. Special shout out to my other brother who is running. He runs the show behind the scenes for us. He's the one putting the photos, the videos, sets up all the graphics for us. So Pablo, I know you're hearing, so thank you so much for everything you do for us. Highly appreciate it. I think that's it. We're gonna call it a wrap. Thank you so much for everybody joining. Next week, Tuesday, 9 p.m., we're gonna be discussing Ridley Scott's Prometheus. I hope to see you all again. Thank you. Have a good night.